In a world that's always racing forward, sometimes we need to slow down and reconnect.
Connect genuinely, broaden your perspective, and share your passion.
Bonafide dialogues, where authenticity, creativity, and passion merge.
Welcome to Bonafide Dialogues.
Kat Casey, Chief Growth Officer at Reveal Brainspace, where she's steering the ship of legal innovation and pushing the boundaries of what AI can do for legal. Known as the TechnoCat, Kat champions the movement for legal professionals to embrace AI and legal tech as a game changer for delivering top-notch results. With nearly 2 decades in the field, she's tackled everything from complex eDiscovery to forensic challenges tied to litigation, regulatory tangles, and high-stakes contracts. Before joining Reveal, Kat was the Chief Innovation Officer for a leading legal AI firm and the global eDiscovery head at Gibson Dunn, overseeing an elite team with expertise in eDiscovery, data privacy, and info governance. Her journey also includes trailblazing stints at PwC's forensic tech practice and KPMG, where she was the national eDiscovery expert. A Harvard grad, cum laude, naturally, with a legal education from Pepperdine, Kat's here to empower the legal world, one AI-driven revelation at a time.
I know that you're very passionate about legal tech. How did you discover this passion?
So I decided when I was 12 on a swing set that I had 2 options. I'm good at numbers, so I can be a doctor. I'm good at words, so I can be a lawyer. And well, if I make a mistake as a doctor, they're dead. If as a lawyer, I can appeal. And so I started building my whole life towards law school, and I wanted to practice. When I got to law school and realized I don't really want to do transactional work, which is what I was great at. And so I, believe it or not, decided, all right, I'm going to try something completely different. My dad had done big government contracting sales, and so I was like, well, maybe I can do sales. But, well, never done it before. So what's the kind of grossest, toughest sales I can think of? Well, definitely cars, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist in type A, so I'm not going to sell any cars. I decided to sell BMWs at the top grossing BMW dealership in North America in Orange County. Became the top grossing salesperson and sold the car to an executive in legal technology who said, Kat, you're wasting your efforts here with these cars. Why aren't you using your law degree and your ability to connect with people in the legal tech space? And so that was 21 years ago. And I've been leveraging my ability to kind of explain complex tech topics to legal-minded people who may have also decided, maybe not on a swing set, but early in their careers, hey, I don't want to do STEM, I don't want to do statistics, I don't want to do computer science. So I'm helping them kind of bridge that gap and translate between law and technology and kind of what the future holds. So not your traditional path, existential philosophy.
I love that. I love that. You have been building this bridge between IT professionals, litigation support professionals, and attorneys. This 2 different worlds, they even speak different languages. And you have been doing it for so long.
Yeah, I 21 years. I started writing and speaking about game theory and machine learning when our idea of machine learning was like, do you thread emails? Like way, way, way back in the day. But I realized that my ability to kind of be a translator, like I like to say, if tech is Klingon, then I don't know, law is like 18th century French. They don't play very nicely together. So you need someone who can speak a little bit of the dorky side and a little bit of the legal side and help make what can be pretty complex problems a lot more approachable. And I've been really lucky that, my non-techie background, but kind of logic and debate and philosophy all help me really be a good
great mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you advocating for machine learning, and there was so much resistance.
Oh yeah.
That time.
I was joking, like it was like I was Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill, but it was on fire and kept rolling over me, I remember, oh goodness, I think 14 years ago.
There's no trust, right? For some reason, attorneys always think we humans can do it better. But then you think, for example, in the discovery, and you have a group of people working 24/7, not 24/7, but long hours reviewing documents, they can make mistakes as well.
So there were several studies back in 2009, 10, 11, the NIST TREC, TREC studies that were analyzing human review versus machine learning. And humans were like well below the median expectation of accuracy, 60, 70% maybe, and machines were coming in 80, 90, 98% accurate. And even with those studies, lawyers felt uncomfortable. And I think the good thing, the difference today versus back then, is the world around us has changed. I'm going to ChatGPT before Google now. My parents know what a large language model is. Cartman on South Park is talking about AI and machine learning. So suddenly lawyers don't feel like it's a risk to use AI and technology. They feel like it's a risk not to, which means they're much more interested when I want to dork out on all things AI.
But it changed, it's recently changed, right? With ChatGPT.
Yeah, we are coming up on ChatGPT's second birthday. I think it'll be November 20th or 22nd. And in those 2 years, it's gone from I've been shouting in the void, use these great AI tools to help you connect the dots and data faster for 20 years, to now suddenly people are talking about AI and machine learning, and it's reshaping policy, it's reshaping data privacy, it's reshaping how we do our jobs. I'm using machine
You're
learning.
probably super excited, right? You have been talking about it for so long. I know. Now people finally like, oh,
Well, it's funny. Like I used to be like, oh no, Kat's talking about AI again. Oh, and now they're like, Kat's talking about AI again. So it's cool.
Can you come in and talk, right? You've been participating in so many events and attending different conferences. How many? Like 50 probably a year.
Yeah, there were so many that I had for the last 3 months of the year. I made a band poster because there were like 18 stops in 3 months. But yeah, probably 50 or 60 in-person and virtual events, and just talking about what is AI? What is machine learning? Is it going to take my job? The answer is no, but it's going to change your job.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel nervous. This change is happening faster than the internet. It took 10 years to get 100 million users of Netflix. It took 20 years for 100 million users of the internet. It took 61 days to get 100 million ChatGPT users, and that's just one large language model. So we're moving really, really fast, and people are nervous. And so what I'm trying to do is go out there and explain it, and correlate these new AI models to maybe things people have used before and they trust, and talk with people about prompt engineering. It's not rocket science, but
it's a different language. It is something to learn. Definitely. Asking questions, asking right questions, giving directions, clear directions.
I always joke with people. It's like, I don't know. Do you remember Ask Jeeves way back in the day? Those early like internet search engines, you'd write a paragraph. Can you please find me X, Y, and Z, like this, like that? And my parents used to do that. And then now I'm like, oh, no, that's actually how I want to prompt engineer. It's like going.
Exactly. And I think you touched on very, very important subject about jobs. I worked in the discovery field for many, many years, many document reviews, and I shifted my career to compliance like 5 years ago. But I have many friends that still work on many different document review projects, and every one of them is actually different. Some of them you feel like you're a robot, Some of them you think like, yes, maybe AI can do that, but some of them not. What do you think? Will they lose their jobs in the near future? The roles will just change a little bit.
There's a lot of doom and gloom. People are afraid they're going to have to hold like a cardboard sign saying we'll litigate for food in a threadbare Brooks Brothers suit and a robot lawyer taking their job. No, but there are going to be 69 million jobs that are impacted, primarily white collar and legal, and of them only 46 million are going to evolve into new jobs. So there's going to be a gap. So some people may lose their job, but I like to say it's not an existential crisis. Yes, job, live, die. It's an evolutionary crisis. The way you do your job today as a legal professional, from doc review to lit support to actually practicing and to going to court, that's going to change because the tools and the data that you use and how you connect the dots is going to change.
You can be more efficient. You can do things faster, better.
And so if you want to be part of that chunk of jobs that are evolving, you got to come to, talks like this and learn and get comfortable with prompt engineering because that's going to become a part of your job. So
yeah, I'm worried about law students, law school students. Did you ever consider teaching? I think you would do well, that would be great.
I've done a couple courses. It's tough for me to commit to an entire semester because I never know where I physically be, but I've been an adjunct for some eDiscovery courses, and I've come in as like a guest speaker around AI. I think for law students, it's going to have to come down to the law school curriculum is not going to adapt fast enough. They're still not teaching eDiscovery in law school, and it's been 20 years, right?
I can't believe it. Yeah.
Right. 18 years. 2006, the federal rules said, yes, electronic data is a document, go forth and discover it. Yeah. So it's not going to keep pace fast enough. But where I think law students have an advantage is they're probably already using Gen AI to write their term, to research their term papers, to structure it. They're already starting to become experts in using these tools and tech. And so my advice is be your own syllabus, right? Look for those courses, look to bolster those skills, because I think much like with, you said you were part of the early.
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, in the early eDiscovery, there were a lot of people who were able to.
Since 2007, yes, I've been in this field.
On their careers, though. Like there were paralegal managers who suddenly were the head of eDiscovery. There were baby associates who became the heads of eDiscovery programs. And I think we're sort of at a point like that now where if you're tech fluent, and I don't mean learn to code, I mean, can you talk the talk? You could become very sticky and relevant with your case team and maybe even accelerate your career. And so I think there's massive opportunity for people that grab the AI beast by the horns a little bit.
I see it. Interesting about the eDiscovery tools. What happened in the last couple of years?
So they've really woven in a lot of user-friendly AI. So it used to be like early technology-assisted review. You needed to have a linguist and a statistician and no lambda calculus and on and on and on. It's become much more user-friendly. So you've got like concept analysis where it'll show you visually the key concepts within a data set, or communication, social network analysis where it shows who's communicating with who, or custom AI models that are just a click away that you can click it on, and suddenly the tools and tech are going to surface more relevant information for you and learn from you. And even now they're starting to.
If you want to talk about your company a little bit.
Yeah, so great. So my company is Reveal. We are one of the top 2 eDiscovery companies, but we're the one that leans a little bit more into AI for eDiscovery. So we acquired Brainspace. So we have this concept cluster wheel, which shows you those key concepts within a data set, or social network analysis, those who's talking to who with what frequency. And we've baked in generative AI search. So I like to say AI is so easy, a partner might use it. Shockingly enough. But you can freeform type a question in. It will look through your entire universe of data with a large language model, and it can answer questions for you, point you to source material, and then push you back in a sort of like Tetris you into all these other different types of AI.
Sounds exciting. I love that.
And the whole goal is no one goes to law school to do doc review, right? You want to be able to know who, what, when, where, why, so you can build your case and build your strategy. And so these tools are all about, how do I find the signal in all the noise? And it's exciting to be with the company that's like, all right, AI is here to stay. Let's lean all the way into it.
Exactly. And I remember you talking about the issue of too many tools. It was a while ago, but I think it's such an important issue to discuss, and for companies, for software companies, try to take into consideration, what do people really need? Having 10 different tools, dealing with 10 different vendors, it's difficult. So even though you give the most efficient tool, but it's just doing one thing, it may be not that good after all.
You're spot on. We actually, that's part of why we've had this kind of acquisition strategy. It used to be people would have to go to Brainspace and push back and forth. Well, we're like, hey, that's the best visual tool out there. Let's bring it into our tool and put it right in that review pane. You want to connect to that data instead of buying ONA. Well, we've already got that woven in. You want to build AI models? Don't go to NextLP. We've woven that in. And so instead of having 10 tools and 10 licenses and push and pull, we kind of wove everything into one place, because The fewer clicks you have, the more easily you can get to info, and no one needs to pay 10 licenses. It should all be transparent and simple, one price, one place, and go. And I think the industry is sort of moving that way too. Thank goodness.
Absolutely, absolutely. How about risks of AI? What do you think about that?
I think the biggest risk of AI is uninformed people using it. If you think about the Avianca case, right? So that's the very famous case where the lawyer was dealing with like a product liability or some sort of a case where it was injury, where on an airplane someone was hit by the drink cart. They did a lawsuit, but he did his research and looked for cases using ChatGPT. The cases were hallucinations; they weren't real. The judge called them out on it, and he doubled down and said, "No, they're really real." The problem there wasn't bad tech. It was someone that didn't understand what large language models do. They are like a very excited first year. They want to do what you're asking it to. And if you keep asking it the same question and it isn't giving you the answer you want, eventually it's going to make one up. Maybe research and finding citations and then not actually clicking on them to make sure they're real just wasn't good lawyering.
Yeah,
it wasn't
take that extra step. Yeah. Do research.
So I think a lot of it is there's risk in terms of data privacy for sure. And so you need to have the right enterprise grade tools and technology where you've got guardrails. There's risk around how they're building the models, where are they scraping? Like I write a lot. So my website, the TechnoCat.com, and even my company website, they're not part of the named sources for ChatGPT, but I can ask ChatGPT to write like me, and it will use metaphors I use, linguistic structure I use. So clearly they were scraping something that had some of my data in it. I don't care. I'm not copywriting TechnoCat Legal Eagles, but I think that speaks to the bigger picture of we don't really know what sources are being used to inform these models.
They will be refined over time. I think they will have a separate AI for education, for example, where we can address all the concerns related to that field, right? And for legal field, there will be a different AI where attorneys can feel more comfortable and have more information available.
I think the opportunity far outweighs the risk. You just need informed people to issue spot. What are the possible risks? And then to build some guardrails and then to train your companies and your organizations about it. Like people are going to use AI and Gen AI. Don't pretend they won't.
I love that point. Right? Yes, the training is so important. Yeah, people will use it because it makes your life easier. It makes you more productive. So training is important and privacy concerns have to be addressed.
And I think we're getting there. We're moving very, very fast, but I think, we're also getting policies built. We're getting people that are very curious and aware are educating themselves and being involved in building up policy and programs around this. So I don't think we're on easy street, but I think we're in a position to build guardrails and to effectively integrate this super powerful tech into the practice of law and into our lives. And otherwise, I mean, we got it either way. It's happening whether you want it to or not.
You mentioned TechnoCat. Did you change to AI Cat? No?
I initially was eDiscovery Cat. So I did eDiscovery Cat. So I did that for 14, 15 years. And so I used to write. That was kind of my Twitter handle. And 5 years ago, right before I joined Reveal, I said, eDiscovery is great, but it's all about data and technology. And so I rebranded myself to TechnoCat, where I focus on AI and legal technology and, how can you embrace all that? Because I saw that the silo of eDiscovery, it's bleeding like for your career into compliance or into cybersecurity. It's data, value extraction,
everything. Connected. Yeah.
And so it was too small a box. So I made the box bigger and I thought about doing AI Cat. Well, one, it doesn't have as good a ring to it as TechnoCat, but I sort of think AI is going to kind of bleed back in and it's all just going to be data and technology. And so that almost might put me in a new little box. So I'm keeping my box.
Yeah. So TechnoCat, what comes to mind to me, remember during COVID, there was a I'm Not a Cat viral video.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was for those that know, there was a poor lawyer that hadn't done Zoom before and he put a cat filter on his face and he is literally defending someone and he's very frustrated. He's like, I can't turn it off, but I trust me. I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat. Yeah. Yeah. So the attorneys are still struggling with technology. and like you said, younger attorneys, maybe they have even easier time to adjust and adapt. But somebody who has been practicing law for so long, it's more difficult for them to adjust. They used to this one way of doing things. What would you recommend to those?
I think the speed of adoption should be a canary in the coal mine. This isn't like the internet where you could kind of ignore it for 10 years. That the world is changing very fast. And so even if you're 5, 6, 7 years from retirement, you still need to understand enough to ask the right questions about these tools and technology. And the amount of efficiency people can have from using AI and Gen AI is so much so that you may not lose your job, but you might start losing clients if you're not becoming more efficient with these tools. And so I would say time is of the essence. We're all building the plane as it's flying. We're all learning right now. The most heads up someone has on this more than you is 21 months, 22 months, right? So you're not lost. You're not so far behind you can't catch up. So I would say start catching up now because it's not showing any signs of slowing down.
Maybe some mentorship programs companies and law firms can adapt.
When I individually find your tribe, like if there's someone, like I write a lot about this, if you want to know about AI and LLMs, follow me, or find people talking about the stuff you're interested in. There's so much information coming at us, I can't even keep up with it. And so I have a herd of people that I talk to. I'm like, hey, have you heard about this? Or I've got a friend who does a lot of international policy. So I'm like, well, what's the EU thinking about AI? So don't try to go it alone. Build, I like to call it your mentorship spider web. Like it's not just one person, it's a whole
I like that. Community. Yeah, that's great. You're saying we're moving fast, but not too fast. Do you think we'll have robots judges at some point, or how far we're from that scenario?
I don't think we'll have robot judges, and I don't think we'll even have robots in the courtroom because of unauthorized practice of law. I think it's really important that we keep the human in the loop on anything where it impacts life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, or those general things. And so I think, much like we're not going to necessarily have robot doctors, you want a human to ensure that the analysis of the robot is right. I don't think we want someone making the final decision about someone having freedom or the right to appeal not involving a human. And so it could be cyborg judges, right? So it's a human that's using technology, but I don't think it would be just a robot without a human involved because you want that humanity involved in a process where it impacts how humans live and interact and how they thrive.
Detail, yes, nuances.
Yeah. And you want a way for you to appeal to a human. Like there should be a way to, if there is some sort of ruling, to counteract that and to know that there was a system involved instead of a human, and then to demand a human be involved. I think it's really important.
Yeah, but I think AI will still help a lot in the courtroom.
And I think judges are getting savvy. There have been some not great rulings. Like there was one judge that said you have to certify every time you use AI. And like, well, do I have to certify? I Googled how to get to your office. That's a little bit too down the weeds. But I think some are getting, much like the people early in eDiscovery, there were some judges that became very knowledgeable. I feel like there's some judges that are kind of leading the charge in that as well.
Yeah. I know you have been writing books. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've contributed to 3 books: Legal Operations in the Age of AI and Data that I did with Meme and Olga Mack. I did the Handbook of Legal Tech, and I did another one around legal innovation. And then I'm also, this is not for prime time yet, but I've got another one in the works that should come out early next year. That's around generative AI for legal tech and lawyers. So I'm just trying to get as much knowledge out there in as many different verticals as I can, because honestly, there's just so much information. People don't even know where to get started.
So you're writing books, you're creating videos on YouTube, you're doing your TikToks, you're trying to spread the information everywhere, right?
It's whatever channel you like. I am probably writing or speaking or visiting because I feel like everyone feels nervous and I don't want anyone to feel like they're going it alone right now. So if I can be there and I can help, it's, where in the world is TechnoCat? Wherever you need me.
Wonderful. And you taking a part in developing some policies related to AI. Could you please talk a little bit about that?
I was very honored to be a part of the New York State Bar AI Task Force, and we pulled together, and it was myself, and then we had, partners at law firms, deans of law schools, just a wide spectrum of brilliant people, former judges, and we pulled together like an 89-page report. My area was kind of the risk and rewards around AI and Gen AI, kind of the history and some policy suggestions, and we presented that to some legislature and I believe a couple different people in the House of Representatives are using that to inform how they're developing policy. And again, the goal is much like lawyers, a lot of politicians, they may not have even had a laptop when they were going to law school. They certainly weren't using AI. And so they're trying to figure this out all in real time. And so we tried to crowdsource a lot of legal and technical knowledge so we could just give them some ammunition as they're trying to figure out how to tackle and get the most value and minimize the risk when it comes to AI and Gen AI.
Yeah, so you were focusing on risks and rewards?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about everything from obviously hallucinations and IP concerns to autonomy and the ability for humans to make informed decisions. And from the reward standpoint, we dug into the ability to analyze multiple MRI outputs and get better informed medical decisions, the ability to parse through data more efficiently and more effectively. There were even a couple different scenarios where we talked about some unique applications of AI. Like I believe in Brazil, they were actually using machine learning and artificial intelligence to determine who could appeal. And we talked about some of the risk and reward that those posed. And the goal was to sort of create a holistic analysis of the different areas where we're seeing actual use of AI, not just hypothetical, specific in legal as well, but a lot more broadly, and talk about some of the guardrails we think need to be in place as we're developing this tools and technology that can far surpass human cognition.
Yeah, and how can we mitigate those risks?
I mean, it comes down to, auditability, being able to understand how the models work and track it, ability to have a human in the loop. You want to have consent if you're going to be interacting, say a chatbot, you want to know it's an AI system, the ability to have human input to off-put any of the potential determinations of the AI.
I think remember us talking in the past, having conversation about security by design, privacy by design. I think this is the same concept can be applied here, right?
100%. And I think that's part of why, if you look at the executive order around foundational models, they were looking at capturing this next wave of models. So we're not necessarily looking backward. Hey, I want to have regulations around ChatGPT 3.5. It's as you're building 4.0, as you're building 4.5, as you're building Cloud 3, or if you're building Gemini 2, we want you to think about having this auditability. As you have this amount of computational power, we have these expectations you're going to build in. And there's entire government agencies that are, or at least roles within government agencies that are being developed specifically to establish these guardrails.
Yeah.
We're looking at global policy, domestic policy, soft law, the different ways that we can find what we as humanity determine to be the most important safeguards when it comes to developing, deploying, and interacting with AI.
But on the other hand, we tend to overregulate things, right? So we have to be careful here too, because other countries don't have those strict rules, and they will have far advanced tools that can be used for many good and bad reasons, right?
Yeah, it was really interesting. And I don't have it in front of me, but there was an entire segment of the executive order that sort of talked about the need to balance the necessity of innovation, what you're talking about, being able to keep up, keep pace, and continue to be tip of the spear, with the need for safeguards. And I feel like that's a more balanced approach than I've seen in prior technological innovation. But it's also a learning curve. I'm pleased to see that a lot of the policies being informed by technologists, not just regulators and not just people that have been elected. But it's still a massive learning curve. We have people that go to Senate hearings and think the internet and the cloud is interconnected tubes. So there's a big knowledge gap that we need to bridge.
You have been attending so many conferences and meeting so many people in this field. Tell me about them. It seems like it's such a huge part of your life. I don't know if you even ever think about life-work balance seems like it's such a huge part of your life, and it seems like you feel you are balanced, in your life.
I realized a long time ago, I used to try to separate church and state. I had a eDiscovery cat Facebook and a regular cat Facebook, but over the years, I gave up. But I just realized I had more in common with these people that I was traveling the world with and talking about these topics that really got my gears going. I mean, so much so that I got married right during COVID 3 years ago. I planned the wedding right around ILTA because so many of the people coming were going to be at ILTA too. So like if you looked at like my best man to my maid of honor, they were all legal tech people. So I'm very lucky that my work life, there is no balance because my work is my life, but it's a lot of fun too because my dearest friends are in the industry and occasionally we dork out, but also we have a lot of fun together. And I think it speaks to our industry though. Our industry isn't one flavor, it isn't one niche. It was the Wild West when I joined. In 2006, eDiscovery didn't exist. The E came on halfway through my first year, right? And so I think those of us that were drawn to this industry, we have a similar rebellious thread and a hunger for knowledge and a little bit of a cowgirl.
Something new, yes, from scratch.
Exactly. Well, I think that we have more in common than different. And so I'm very lucky. I would not be able to handle my 229 days on the road a year if it wasn't like going to one family reunion to another, talking about stuff that I would talk about just for my own entertainment. So I'm very, very lucky.
You can relate. Yeah, everyone can relate.
It's such brilliant people. Like they say that you're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Well, I surround myself with 5,000 or 50,000 and they're all brilliant. So I think that helps me be a smarty pants sometimes.
Yeah, and this legal world, everyone is very, very serious, and tech world, everyone, and again, I'm generalizing, but generally speaking, very much introverted. And I think you brought something new.
I am the opposite.
You made it fun.
Oh.
I think it's great. I love it.
I realized a long time ago that if I aimed for the people that were grumpy when I was sparkly or when I was out there and boisterous, I would, one, be unhappy, but two, they still wouldn't like me. So why not aim for people that, want to have a sense of humor and are curious and cheeky? And so I sort of leaned a little more and more into it. And I think it opened the door for other people to lean into their whatever makes them authentically them. And that's been really, really cool to see. Like I can remember being nervous, like, what if I wear the pink shirt under the gray suit? That's too much. I can't do it. And now I'm like, do I head to toe?
It's good to feel free, right? It's good to feel free and be yourself, whether you're at work or you're around your family, friends.
Well, now it's like putting on my Superman uniform. When I'm in something bright and sparkly, it's like, all right, I'm ready to hit the stage.
Yes. Which events are your favorite ones? Which ones would you recommend? And I know it's probably a hard question to answer because there's so many wonderful events. But if we talk about AI, what do you think would be the main event that would give you more in-depth information related to legal tech and AI?
I think it depends on what you're looking for. I really enjoyed, I went to my first ever ILTA Evolve this past year. I was the keynote, and it's an AI and cyber event, a little bit more niche, like 500,000 people, 500 or 1,000, not 500,000. That one's great. Legal Week and ILTA, the main ones, those are where you're going to meet the most people. Everyone gets the annual budget, and they really leaned into deep AI content. So I've been really pleased with that. It depends on kind of what your area of expertise is. Are you more legal ops? Well, then absolutely go to Clock. They've got a wealth of AI sessions. The nice thing is because AI has become so ubiquitous, you don't have to just go to an AI conference. Whatever your niche and your community is, they're going to have sessions about it. I've had a lot of really well-attended and very dynamic web-based sessions. I had 700 people attend a generative AI thing I did a week or so ago, and there were so many questions coming in, like 30 or 40 or 50. And usually, I don't know if you've done a few webinars, sometimes it's like one, and you're like, yes, I got
Not everyone can attend live events. Maybe they're busy. Maybe company doesn't have a budget for it.
No, I agree. I think that There's two routes you can go. One, if you don't have the budget, talk with your suppliers. Like I work at a vendor, and a lot of times if there's a law firm or corporation, they're like, hey, I'd really love to know more about X, Y, or Z. I'm happy to pop on a virtual thing or even fly out. I like educating people. And a lot of companies have someone like me. So if you can't go somewhere, maybe ask if someone will come in. There's a lot of good
That's good. Yeah,
like
good advice.
it's every big organization, at least in the space that I work, there's someone that's happy to do it. And again, I think a lot of us like giving back and paying it forward. And so that's always an option. There's regional events too. The Masters Conference does a bunch of them. There's kind of local industries like ACEDs and Women in eDiscovery that'll bring in speakers, local bar associations. If you look at, I think ACEDs has a bunch of online courses. ALM has a bunch of online CLEs, CCBJ. There's a wealth of information. There's no one perfect spot. And what I've noticed is as the world shifted and became more AI centric, it's like an AI renaissance. The themes I'm seeing at shows big and small, regional or New York or London, whatever, they're all very similar threads that are weaving through. So as long as you're going and learning, you're going to, I think, be pleasantly surprised by the freshness of the information.
And you mentioned London, and what came to my mind that you're actually traveling internationally. What do people think about AI in other countries? I know we're all about it, but it's not everywhere, right?
It's interesting. I think earlier in the release of AI, believe it or not, the UK and APAC were more embracing of AI because of their global data privacy posture, right? So they were more about being laparoscopic. You're not going to triage it. You're not going to cut a limb off. You're going to go in with like a little robot and do a little tiny piece of information. Well, that mentality of wanting to be very precise in the information that you use in discovery actually made international, I would say, made EMEA and APAC, Oceania, not necessarily all of APAC, more open to AI. And so I had the pleasure of being a keynote for a New Zealand conference. I don't remember which it was called, but a couple months ago, and it was wonderful. I had 1,000 people in the room that were just peppering questions around Gen AI. They're very knowledgeable and interested, and so I think it's more of a level playing field than I would have guessed in terms of knowledge. And I think the appetite is increasing in the US, but it was higher to begin with in some international areas. So, I mean, Australia and New Zealand and in London and Germany, I've been really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and we're still in early stages. What do you think? What should we expect in terms of AI? Do you have any predictions?
I think we're going to stop talking about it. And here's what so in 2000, what were we talking about? Web-based, cloud-based, internet of whatever, right? We don't talk about web-based anymore because it's just a foundational thing. Post-COVID, we don't talk about cloud anymore. It's assumed, it's virtualized. And so I think AI is going to be so ubiquitous. We're not talking about it anymore as in do we or don't we, risk or reward. I think it's just going to be a foundational piece of how we live, work, and play. That being said, in order to get to that point, it's going to have to be more reliable, more transparent, better guardrails, and user-friendly. I like to think of, Google, right? Why did Google become ubiquitous? Because it was a simple box and you didn't think you were going to break it, no matter how powerful the algorithm is. And I think ChatGPT learned from that. It doesn't feel like I'm using the most powerful foundational large language model on the planet. I write my little prompt with 15 typos in it, and it sort of knows what I'm saying. And so I think we're going to find a more seamlessly integrated, non-technical, user-friendly approach to AI, and it's going to just be ubiquitous. And I think that's going to mean we're going to be able to converse more in natural language with AI models. I think we're very close to artificial general intelligence, which I don't know what that actually means for legal specifically, but I feel like that's very transformative. But I'd imagine 5 years from now, we'll say AI a lot less than we say it now because it's going to be, of course, we're using AI.
Natural part of our existence.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm thinking, is it something that we have to be afraid of?
I think the only people who need to be afraid of it are the people who want to pretend it's not going to change the world, right? If I want the world to not evolve at all, I want to do things exactly how I've done it, it's scary, right? But if I look at it as, hey, this is another tool in my toolbox, having a computer that didn't end my life and make me miserable, having the internet, it changed things drastically, but it didn't, blow the world up. I think if we look at AI as it's that next thing that's going to change how we do stuff for the better. It's a little.
Some people argue that it's not just a tool, that it's something is more impactful.
So I think it's changing how we look at information, how we interact with each other. And again, much like the internet in terms of changing how communication works, changing the nature of business. So in that respect, the amount of change, it's not, I have a new widget. It's foundational, like what we expect to be able to interact with, what we expect humans to do. It is reshaping that, but I don't think it's reshaping it in a way that's harmful to humanity. I think it's reshaping it with humanity to make life better. We just need to make sure that the people building
it coming, but we have to stay in control of it.
And keep humans in the loop and make sure that we're designing human-centric AI. So we're not just designing something an engineer thinks is beautiful. We're thinking, all right, this is how humans interact with this tool. Here's how we make it better for them. Here's the problem we're trying to solve for the humans. As long as we keep it human-centric and human in the loop as we design this with safeguards, I think that we're in a really good spot. And I think we learned a lot of lessons from prior industrial revolutions and even from the internet that we need policies sooner, that we need to be thoughtful in building it. And are we perfect? No, but I think we're in a much better place than even 20 years ago.
And if AI is doing so much for us, what are we going to do? I'm worried about our brains. We're not going to use some parts of it. What do you think about that?
No. You know who the first person I know that mentioned that? Socrates. Because he thought in the Phaedrus that in the written word was going to make his students less intelligent because they weren't memorizing. It was losing oral tradition. And yes, they did lose oral tradition, but then they learned all this stuff. And then the Gutenberg press, same thing, not having to transcribe it. That's going to make people less intelligent. The internet, that's going to make people less intelligent. It's not binary. It's not smart, dumb. We're changing how we think and what it means to be smart and what it means to be effective and leverage tools. And so the what of smartness and of brilliance is evolving, but not the fact of its existence. And I think that it's, it may in some ways, especially in areas like legal, free you up to do what you went to law school to do, to practice law. You're not doing very administrative stuff or very rote, rinse, repeat stuff. You're able to actually do that higher level cognition. And I think
great point. Yeah, you will be able to focus on what's matter, what you actually want to do.
Exactly. And you know what? If Socrates got it wrong, I'm okay with us getting it wrong, I mean, my biggest advice to anyone tuning in is, we are at a really just a transformative time. And so, find your dorks, find people you can talk tech with. Don't go it alone. Look for these resources. And now's a moment in time where you can leapfrog people that aren't being proactive about learning about AI. Certainly in industries like, consulting and finance and audit, healthcare, and for sure legal. And it's a very different industrial revolution. Before it really affected, jobs where people were doing things with their hands. This is affecting jobs where people are doing things with their mind. So if you pursue a career that, relied on your mind, well, use it. Use it to define and refine those new skills, because I think it's going to allow a lot of people to supercharge their career if they're proactive about it, which excites me.
You have to stay positive. Supercharge your career with AI.
Exactly.
I like that.
You can't stop it, so let's go all in on it.
What does kindness mean to you?
Kindness means sharing your superpower, right? Not hoarding it. And so for me, kindness is, I get what I call FOMY, F-O-M-Y. So it's fear of missing you, right? Fear of missing out on shining a light on someone, on being able to have a conversation or being able to make a concept less scary. Like my kindness is sharing what I'm really good at, which is making this uncertainty feel more approachable. And so, kindness is paying it forward, and it's sharing what you've got a corner on the market of, and what I love is in this industry, there's a bunch of charities I work with and raise millions of dollars because our industry is kind and wants to pay it forward. And whatever your superpower is, share it. And I think that if everyone shares what makes them unique and wonderful, the world will be a much better place.
Wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you.